Well, it's the second day of March. Tomorrow is your aunt's birthday. It was a rainy, drizzly morning this morning. It's kind of warm. It's like probably 60 degrees, and birds are out chirping, and I like this kind of. Feels like a rainforest, and of course, this is an evergreen area here on the Outer Banks, and these trees stay green in these little coastal forests all year. Of course, they also get more lush and more vegetation grows, and when it warms up, it's these. You can see. I mean, you can see through the trees and everything. So it's not as if there's no change between summer and summer. It gets really thick and grown up, and also all these vines and things get really thick. But the nice thing I like about our climate here is that it gives us, we experience a lot of different weather, and once you travel, and you've already traveled a lot, but when you travel and you go some places, the climate stays almost the same all the time. In other places, it changes a lot. And when you live someplace where it changes, you can think about other places that when the weather changes. Oh, this is the weather like I saw when I was over there. This is the weather like I've experienced when I was at that place. And so we get sometimes we get weather that reminds me of, like the Northwest, or something like that, which is kind of what this feels like. Or you sometimes get weather that feels like Florida, or sometimes you get weather that feels like Africa, or Africa's a continent. The weather's much is a big place, but places that you visited in Africa or Europe or across the United States and Canada and wherever in the world, we get a little bit of everything, other than super dry. We don't ever get super dry weather here, but we can get lower humidity occasionally, and it's sunny and high pressure systems, and it feels a little bit like Southern California, or sometimes we get weather that feels cold and icy, and not super cold. We don't get super cold weather, but it feels like New England sometimes for a few days. That's really neat. It takes you back, but all these sensations and experiences make up a lot of who we are. A lot of our memories now, they know. Again, I think people knew this, but science had to come along and try to make sure they proved it before they had some wrong idea about things. A lot of our memories are stored in our senses, so we have our nervous system, but our nervous system is more complicated than just one thing. It's broken down into smaller parts, and particularly there's the central nervous system, which is the brain and the spinal cord, and that's all directly tied together. And then the nerves branch off, and they send signals back and forth from the body back to that central nervous system, to wherever it gets processed in our brain or our spinal cord. So that system is the peripheral nervous system, and the system that branches off from the brain and from the spinal cord. But that peripheral nervous system doesn't just translate signals. It doesn't just say, oh, that's hot, or that feels rough, or that's smooth, or that's cold, or whatever, or etc. It actually has memory there as well. And so if we experience something and we have a memory from it, it's the nervous system has a memory all through our nervous system. It doesn't have to be, it's just stored in one spot in the brain. Of course, the brain really is the tightest bundle of neurons, and it's structured in a way to be kind of the command center of everything, or definitely the command center of everything. But for efficiency and for survival purposes, because it does take a little bit of time, even split seconds, to send signals back up into the brain. And then you can also imagine that when all your senses are sort of truly heightened, you can also, it takes a lot of energy to power the brain. It doesn't necessarily make sense to overwhelm the brain with too much sensation and too many things at once if some of that work can be done out at the periphery. So the peripheral nervous system has memory as well. So when we experience things in life from all varieties of things, when our body reacts, a lot of our responses and whatnot are coming from that peripheral nervous system. And then practice and practice and practice, like when athletes get so good or an artist gets so good at one certain thing, part of that is that memory that's in the peripheral nervous system. And then the body, you build more neuronal connections, more nerves that are, and more connections between the nerves that help that signaling process evolve to be at its top. And that also means when we learn these things when we're younger, when we have more neuroplasticity, we're connecting more neuronal connections at a faster clip. That's why a lot of these skills are, it's two ways. One is, that's why those skills, but not just their skills, but emotions. This is not just about skills and things. I'm using that as an example, but this is about our emotions, our learned behaviors, the way we respond to things in life, our ability to control our thinking and to have a sense of self. All of these things are all connected together. The more we practice strengthening that nervous system with meditation and breathing and exercise and mindful thinking when we're young, stronger our nervous system will be as we get older. And so the other side of that, though, is that as we get older, we have another purpose for having to practice those things. We can keep creating connections in the brain, we can keep strengthening our brain, we can keep improving ourselves, but we also need to practice things just like we need to practice using our muscles so they don't atrophy. So as we get older, we want to keep learning new things and pushing our limits and trying new things so that we keep ourselves young and healthy, so to speak. So the nervous system and the muscular system and all those things, all the systems of the body, they're important to learn about and to know about. But there's also things that haven't really been taught a certain way, but we know with good evidence that they do work a certain way, and that is important to know that your whole body has a memory to it and remembers things. And your gut health, and the nervous system in your gut there's a reason for why we feel things in our gut, and we say that we feel it in our gut. It's because there's a big connection. There's a lot of neurons and a lot of neuronal activity in the gut, and there's a whole lot of explanation for why that is, but just it is. And so when we feel things in different parts of our body, or like we feel it in our heart or we feel it in our gut, well, that's not just an imagination. We are feeling it there, and as part of that memory is stored there. But yeah, I love you. You're a strong, amazing human being, and I want you to just try to know these things to give you some places, some bases to start your own journey, your own research, and your own thinking, and your own practices to be your own best self. I love you.